Welcome back, children, to one more session of our Class 10 third chapter Nationalism in India. In this part of our chapter, we will see how participants saw the movement. Which movement are we talking about, children? Yes, the civil disobedience movement. In the previous video, we had seen how the Salt March took place and also about how it led to the civil disobedience movement. Children, while discussing, not only that, we had tried to understand that there was a difference between the non-cooperation movement and the civil disobedience movement. That is, in the non-cooperation movement, it was for not following the rules of the British government. Whereas in the civil disobedience movement, along with not following the rules of the British government, it dealt with the breaking of the laws formed by the British government, like the Salt Act and the forest laws, besides holding the demonstrations. This movement was launched basically to attain Purna Swaraj, as the 11 demands of Gandhiji was denied. Then we had seen why the civil disobedience movement had to be called off. Not only that, but we had seen Gandhiji had to attain the round table conference. So, in short, we try to understand about the story of the civil disobedience movement in the previous video. In this movement, thousands of people participated. So here we have to see who all participated in this movement. What would be their notion in this participation and what would be their objectives in this participation? See, children, since the beginning of this chapter, we have been understanding that the meaning or the definition of Swaraj stood different for the different groups of people in the Indian society. Like in the non-cooperation movement, we saw how it differed in the towns, in the countrysides with the peasants and the tribals participating in it, and even in the tea plantation workers. So every group had their own notion towards the independence. Similarly, during the civil disobedience movement, it also saw the participation of the people in different grounds, like in the countryside, the farmers, which included the rich farmers and the landlords on one side, and the poor peasants having their own demands on the other side. In the towns, the industrial owners, or we can say the businessmen, on one side, and the industrial workers on the other side. And also women having their own perspectives. So every group joined the civil disobedience movement with their own interests. Now we will see the participants in the countryside. First, if we talk about the rich communities in the countryside, that is the rich farmers and the landlords, the jats and the patidars, what was their views towards the civil disobedience movement? Children, in one of the video, we had discussed about the Great Economic Depression that engulfed the world. Yes, the trade was facing a great downfall. Agricultural goods were not getting proper demands. The situation arose was such that the revenue demanded by the colonial government was very high. These landlords came up with the demand that they cannot pay such high revenues and it has to be lowered or reduced. This demand was rejected by the British. This enraged the farmers and they decided to oppose against the colonial government. For this agitation, they brought the landlords under one roof, and those who were unwilling to join them were forced to join. And this is how the rich farmers became the part of the civil disobedience movement, showing resentment against the colonial government. So, what was the motive of the rich peasants here? It was a fight for Swaraj that meant struggle against the high revenue. But children, they were disappointed with the movement when their demands were ignored in 1931 and therefore they did not participate in 1932 when Gandhiji relaunched the civil disobedience movement. Now, for the poor peasants, it was not only the matter of reducing the high revenue, but also the unpaid rent to be remitted. Children, most of these poor peasants were the landless laborers who used to work on the land of the landlords by paying the rents to them. So the demands of the poor peasants were to reduce the revenue paid to the British government and the unpaid rent to the landlords or the zamindars should be remitted or waived off. But here the problem was that most of this time these peasants would become a part of the radical movements. Children, like in class 9, you have studied about the communist and the socialist ideology in the Russian Revolution. There you have studied about the peasants' revolt against the landlords and also about the socialist policy of taking back the lands from the landlords and distributing it equally among the peasants. That is about the haves and haves not. Right? You have studied about those things. So, similar ideology started spreading in other parts of the world, and it could be seen even in India. The radical movements involved violent movements, and Congress, therefore, who did not support the radical movements, was unwilling to support their demands to remit the unpaid rent or no rent campaign. Congress somewhere did not want to annoy the rich communities who had their support in the movement. Therefore, we can say Congress and the poor peasants, they maintained their distance in this movement. That was the participation in civil disobedience movement you saw in the countryside. Now, if we talk about the city or the town, the industrial owners or the businessmen, why did they participate in the civil disobedience movement? With what notion did they join the civil disobedience movement? These businessmen were the financiers of the Congress party. As in the countryside, the rich farmers and the landlords supported the Congress. Similarly, in towns, it was the industrialists and the businessmen. Now, children, during the First World War, Indian industries flourished rapidly. How and why? Because during the First World War, all the Britain companies were facing a downslope, or we can say an economic crisis, as due to war the production process was disturbed to quite an extent. But in India, the industries started setting up and also flourishing to a greater extent. They not only made profits but also became very powerful. But the colonial government was not in favor of the Indian industries. Certain policies restricted the business activities. So these industrialists opposed the British policies that restricted their business activities and also demanded protect against the import goods. Because children, whenever a country imports the goods from the other countries, then that particular country faces an unemployment problem. Whereas when the export increases, unemployment decreases. And more people get employed in the companies. For example, India faces unemployment as most of the goods were imported from the neighboring countries. But as per our Prime Minister, the policy of Make in India will definitely lead to exporting our goods to other countries. And that will definitely increase the employment opportunities as well. The industrialists or the businessmen also wanted a favorable rupee sterling ratio. In order to organize their business interest in 1921, they had set up Indian Industrial and Commercial Congress, and in 1927 Federation of the Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industries, that is in short FICCI. Prominent businessmen like G.D. Birla, that is Ghanshyam Das Birla of Birla Group, and Purushottam Thakur Das, a Gujarati cotton trader, businessman, and an industrialist from Bombay, that is today's Mumbai, led industrialists and attacked the colonial control over economy. They supported the civil disobedience movement when it was started first, even financially. They refused to buy or sell the imported goods. For the industrialists, the meaning of Swaraj was the time when colonial restrictions on their business or trade won't be there, and the trade and industry in India would flourish without any restrictions. But unfortunately, after the failure of the Round Table Conference, the businessmen became less enthusiastic or less interest could be seen in the civil disobedience movement. They were apprehensive or worried about the spread of militant activities and also feared about prolonged disruptions of business. They also started losing confidence on Congress, looking at the growing influence of socialism on the young Congress leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru. As in India, it was Jawaharlal Nehru because of whom the impact of the Russian socialism could be seen in Indian economy, in Indian business. In Lahore Congress session, Jawaharlal Nehru was a president there, as you have seen in the earlier video. Now, he declared that he was a socialist. In 1930, he wrote an article called Vigor India, wherein he clearly mentioned why he believed in socialism. And he also said that there is no scope left for capitalism. The industrialists did not participate in the civil disobedience movement when Gandhiji relaunched in 1932 as how the rich farmers and the landlords refused to join the civil disobedience movement again. Now the question is why the industrial workers participated in the civil disobedience movement. Remember one thing, children. The industrial owners and the workers are always two opposite poles. Industrial owners will always think about their profits, whereas the workers will always think about their benefits, like less working hours, good wages, trade unions against the owners, and so on. The Congress supported the industrial owners as they were the financier to the party. But now here, except the Nagpur region, industrial workers did not participate in the civil disobedience movement. As in how the Congress started getting the support of the industrialists, the industrial workers became aloof. But then too, some workers adopted the Gandhian program, or we can say participated in the civil disobedience movement by boycotting the foreign goods. Their in particular participation in this movement was against the unequal and low wages, against the poor unhygienic working condition. In 1930, railway workers went on strike. Since 2 years, these workers were struggling within their department for their demands. Joglekar, Bardley, Nimbalkar, and many other leaders were leading this strike. Similarly, in 1932, the dock workers went on strike. Bombay Dock Worker Union had declared a strike, and in that, Babu Genu, a worker, laid down in Masjid Bandar Station Road so that a truck load of foreign goods should not move in. But unfortunately, the truck was passed over him by the British police himself. This resulted in a huge wave of anger, strikes, and protest throughout Mumbai. Then the Bombay Dock Workers Union was shut down, or we can say banned, till 1946. Even in Chota Nagpur, the workers protested the British rule by wearing the Gandhian caps. Still, the Congress was reluctant in including the workers' demand in its programs, as it felt that it would alienate the industrialists and also would divide the anti imperial forces. Now, last but not the least, why women participated in the civil disobedience movement. How did they participate in this movement? Women protested against the British rule, wherever be it be. The women belonging to the rich communities or the poor families, or for that matter, whether she is belonging to the industrialist family or to the workers' family. Like their contribution could be seen in the Salt March. The women protested the Salt Act by manufacturing the salt, picketed the shops, and even went to the jails. They believed that it was their sacred duty towards the nation, like how we worship God. Gandhiji was happy with the women's participation in these movements, but he also believed and convinced them that women must look after their home and children. Though women participated in various movements launched by Gandhiji, but they could not improve their positions in the society. People were not open minded to give them a position in the society. Even in the Congress, the higher position or an authoritative position were not given to the women. So we can say that the presence of the women in the society was just a symbolic presence. That is, only participation but no position in the society. I hope, children, the topic is very clear to you all. In the next session, we will see the limitations of the civil disobedience movement. That is, the reasons why civil disobedience movement could not achieve the desired outcomes. Till then, children, go through the chapter up to whatever we have covered. Be safe and take good care of yourself. Thank you.